Well, hello everyone. This is Robert continuing with our Red Box Dungeons and Dragons. Just wanted to once again mention here regarding dwarves. Here's a basic description of the racial abilities. They are defined in, I guess you could say, minimal detail. So there is some explanation. Low light vision. It explains what that is. Cast iron stomach, it explains that. Dwarven resilience, it explains that when you use your second wind, instead of taking a standard action, you can use it. You can do it with a minor action. And stand your ground. If something makes you move, you can move one less square. And if you would be knocked prone, you can immediately make a saving throw to avoid falling prone. So that means on a 10 or higher you remain standing. So I have fleshed out my character sheet a little bit. And I've written some of this information down over in the power and feats section. I think I've got enough detail out now, along with my power cards with my two stances and my one encounter power. We are ready to start things up and use our map for the first time. If you look here, I've chosen a token for my dwarf. That's a dwarf face there. And we've got some goblins in here hiding out around the campfires. Now, because I made a good check when, what was it, diplomacy, I think I ended up using with the goblin, I've not alerted the goblins to my presence. So following 93, it says find the poster map in the box. It's the monster lair, and you're supposed to find 4 goblin tokens. And if you approach the cave without alerting, which I did, place 1 goblin token next to each campfire. Here are the goblin statistics regarding their initiative, their defenses. They only have 1 hit point each. And it talks about their melee attack scores, their ranged attacks, and their tactics. Basically, when you miss a goblin with a melee attack, the goblin shifts 1 square as an immediate reaction. So what we have to do to begin this encounter is roll initiative for our character. Then we roll initiative for the goblins. We roll a d20 and add 3. Whoever rolled higher acts first, and after that you and the goblins take turns. Remember that on each turn you can take a standard action, a move action, and a minor action. The goblins have the same allotment of actions on their turns. And if you have any powers that are immediate actions or opportunity actions, you can sometimes use those powers on the goblin's turn. Likewise, the goblins use their goblin tactics on your turn. Anytime you miss them with a melee attack, they can shift. This explains a little bit about standard actions. It's, swinging with a weapon, stabbing with a dagger, using a prayer or a spell. This talks about picking your targets, and you make 1 attack roll for each target, and then you deal damage. We go up here. Other important standard action you can use is second wind. Remember that the dwarf can use that as a minor action. But it allows you to spend 1 of those healing surges. And you only get to do this 1 time during a fight. So there's no third wind or fourth wind, that kind of thing. It's a good way to catch your breath. And let's see. You can use a move action or a minor action instead of a standard action if you want to. Move actions, it talks about some of those, moving your speed. It talks about making your attack rolls and what opportunity attacks are like. Opportunity attack is when you can get a free attack against another. Like here, it says if a goblin leaves a square that's adjacent to you, you can attack it too using a basic melee attack. Hopefully I'll be able to show all of this to you in action here very soon. You or the goblins can avoid opportunity attacks by shifting. You can shift one square as a move action. So basically that saves you from getting attacked for free. Remember, if you try to move around, and we're not talking about moving one square, but trying to move several squares, when you're next to an enemy, your guard is down and they get a free attack on you. So by only carefully moving one square, you keep your guard up and they don't get that free attack. It says you can run, which gives you +2 to your speed, but you grant combat advantage to your enemies, which is a +2 bonus to their attack rolls, and you take -5 to your attack rolls until the end of the turn. If you knock a goblin prone, it can stand up as a move action. Remember that you can also use a minor action instead of a move action if you want to. And it talks about minor actions. It says they usually aren't very exciting, but there are several things you can do. And it said if you run into questions about the rules, check out the pages 8 through 19 in the Dungeon Master's book. So basically what we're supposed to do now is find one of these three options. We either defeat all the goblins, we run away, or we fall unconscious, and we find out what happens. So it's battle time. Let's see what we can do. Be right back with you. Okay, we're going to continue along here. One thing I want to mention about movement, if you've watched my other videos playing the D&D board games, when you are near a wall, you could move from this space to this space diagonally with no problem. In this game, this is heading more toward the full RPG. You actually can't do that. This is the Dungeon Master's book. It contains a bit more detail on the rules. And remember from the red box it said if you have any other questions, look from page 8 to, was it 19 or something. But this is about running combat. Talks about your different actions and what you can do. But there's a part here on movement, and look at this. Moving around corners. You can see that they're not allowed to move diagonally. He didn't move from here to here. He had to go around it that way. So when you're going around corners, it works just a little differently. If you see here diagonal movement, it works the same way as any other movement, except a creature can't cross the corner of a wall or another obstacle that fills the corner between the square it's in and the square it wants to move to. A creature can move diagonally past other creatures since they don't normally fill their squares completely. You can take double moves. Anyway, it just explains a few more things. The neat thing here about flanking. I always thought this would be a neat house rule to implement in the board games, but when you have two heroes on either side of a monster, you have combat advantage, and that means that you get +2 to your attack rolls on that monster. But you have to be exactly on the opposite sides. If you see here, here's a hero and here's a hero, but they're not perfectly on opposite sides. They would have to be like this. And then this hero is actually dazed, and so although there is another hero directly there, he's not coherent enough to grant that bonus. You have to be clear-headed and sharp to be able to get that bonus. But these rules go on and explain a number of things about area attacks and how they work, and about choosing targets and attack roll modifiers. You can actually have things in here that give you a bonus or a penalty depending upon the situation. There's even a charge attack there. And let's see, a charge. It says, a charge is a special kind of attack. As a standard action, a creature moves its speed. The creature must move at least 2 squares, and each square it moves must bring it closer to its intended target. At the end of the move, the creature makes a melee basic attack against the target with +1 to the attack roll. After the attack, the creature can't take any further actions this turn except for free actions. So that's what a charge is. Probably my dwarf is going to try something like that very soon. And it talks about damage. Critical hits, when you roll a 20, what happens? It says when a monster makes an attack and rolls a 20, the attack not only automatically hits, but it also might be a critical hit. The attack is a critical hit if the result of the attack roll after modifiers are applied is high enough to hit the target's defense. A critical hit does maximum damage. So for example, an attack that does 1d8 plus 4 on a critical hit does 12 fire damage on a crit. If an attack normally deals no damage, it still deals no damage on a critical hit. And then magical weapons add some bonuses to a critical hit according to these rules. It talks about different conditions. You may have seen these kind of things in the board game, but you've got blinded, dazed, dying, helpless, immobilized, marked, prone, slowed, surprised, unconscious. And we've got durations and how long they last, saving throws, how to make a saving throw, and then finally some on healing and dying and resting. So there we go, and some nice artwork there of looks like a cleric type of character. So that's what's in the Dungeon Master book in the earlier sections. So I will pick it up here with the actual combat next. Why don't we do this first though before I end the video? Let's see who's going to go first. I'm going to roll for my dwarf. Oh, look at that. We started out with a natural 20. I think my dwarf is going to get the drop on these guys. They rolled a 10 and add 3, so 13. So my dwarf is first. The goblins are second. Combat next.